Welcome back to the Morning Mindset edition of the Live, Build, Change podcast. I am so glad you're here this morning because we are on to something big. In terms of a truth that we're mining out of the book of Romans chapter 3. Yesterday, in episode 293 of the Morning Mindset, it was published on October 11th. You can go back and listen to that if you haven't heard it. We discovered something incredible, and that is that our acceptance before God, yours and mine, those who believe in Jesus Christ, it is not based on our performance in any way. So let me say that a different way. God does not have an agenda for this day that you perform well for Him so that He approves of you. Let that sink in. This day is not about you gaining God's approval or you living up to some standard that God has in mind for you. That is not what this day is about. Romans chapter 3 says that our righteousness comes through our faith in Jesus Christ, and it is for all who believe. And it is the righteousness of God. So your performance is not the issue. Paul goes on in verse 27 to say, then what becomes of our boasting? It is excluded. By what kind of law? By a law of works? No, but by the law of faith. For we hold that one is justified by faith apart from works of the law. So you are just in God's eyes by your faith in Jesus Christ, because Jesus, so to speak, did the heavy lifting on the cross. Jesus is the one who did everything needed to obtain righteousness for you. And it's the righteousness of God that's now imputed to you, given to you by virtue of your faith in what Jesus has done. And so today is not about you performing. Today is about you living by faith. We see that more clearly in some other passages. You see, our lives are about affirming the faith that we have, not obtaining some kind of righteousness. That's already been done for us. If we skip down to verse 31 in Romans 3, Paul asks a question. He says, do we then overthrow the law by this faith? So he's saying, do we disregard it? Do we forget about how we're supposed to live because we're justified by faith? He says, on the contrary, we uphold the law. So he's saying we live the way we're supposed to live, not in order to obtain righteousness, but because we are already righteous. You see, God has already made us righteous, and now it's a matter of living according to who God says we really are. And that gets us back to the very heart of why I do these morning mindset episodes. You see, every day we have to remind ourselves of what God says about us, of what God says is true of us. If we are truly righteous, then that changes our motivation for what we do. It transforms it. It makes us a different sort of person, a person who behaves the way we do for different reasons. And that's exactly what Paul has just told us. We uphold the law. In other words, we live a righteous life. We do the things we should do because we are righteous people. You see, it flows out of our identity as a redeemed person, as a person who now is justified before God. We live in a way that makes Him look good, that shows off what He has done for us, because that provides hope for others who are looking at our lives and saying, how is that possible? How can a person live that kind of life with such humility and such grace and such patience and endurance? It's because we're living out of our identity. So today, remember, you are righteous in Christ. And that is the source of any good works that you do. That's who you are.